I've been thinking a lot about something recently. Have you ever seen someone driving, let's say, a really nice car or living in a massive house or, just living a life that you look at and you think, okay, that must be nice? Maybe it's somebody pulling up in a Porsche or just a giant house or someone who just, you can clearly tell that they're wealthy and thought, that must be nice. Maybe one day I'll be able to have that. And I've had that thought plenty of times, but recently I've kind of started thinking about it in a different way. Instead of thinking must be nice, I started literally just asking myself, why not me? And that one question has completely changed the way that I think about money, success, and what I believe is possible for my own life. So think about this. If you see someone who's successful, they're not some different species, right? They're a human being, the same as you. They have the same 24 hours in the day you have. The sun rises for them just like it rises for you, right? It goes down for them the exact same way. They get tired, they make mistakes, they have good days, bad days, whatever it is, right? They have things they're not good at. They're human, right? And obviously, I'm not saying everyone has exactly the same circumstances because we know that that is definitely not the case, right? Some people are born into wealthy families, some people have incredible opportunities that they're fortunate to have, some people have advantages that other people don't have. And, some people have obstacles that other people will probably never have to deal with. But I think there's something so powerful about realizing that the existence of someone else's success doesn't mean that success is impossible for you. If someone else can build a successful business, why can't you? If someone else can become financially independent, why can't you? Right? If someone else, can buy the house that they want, why can't you? And I think sometimes we kind of subconsciously put successful people into a different category, right? We see someone who's wealthy and think they're rich, successful, they're different. And then we just look at ourselves and we think, I'm just me. But that person didn't wake up one morning as, the person that we look at today, right? There was a version of them that was younger. There was a version that had less money. There was probably a version of them that didn't know what they were doing, right? Everybody had to kind of start somewhere, and that's important because when you see that finished product, it's so easy to kind of just forget that there was a process, right? It wasn't always that success, right? You see the sports car, you don't see the years of work, right? You see that nice house and you don't see the decisions that led to being able to afford something like that, right? Even looking at a successful business, you don't see the thousands of hours that went into building it. So instead of looking at the finished product and thinking, must be nice, try asking, what would I have to do to get there? Or again, why not me? Now, I want to make a super, super important distinction. Why not me doesn't mean I deserve this, right? It doesn't mean the world owes you a nice car. It doesn't mean you're entitled to wealth. And it definitely does not mean that simply wanting something will make it happen, right? It's the opposite. Why not me means if this is possible, why am I automatically assuming it's impossible for me, right? Maybe it's the way you were taught in school, some things just aren't realistic, etc. And that doesn't mean they're not difficult, right? But if someone built a business from nothing, maybe you could learn how they did it. If someone's a successful designer, maybe you could develop that skill. If someone became wealthy through investing over decades, maybe you could start investing too. You might not get the exact, result that this person got. It might not be the exact same because again, you might not have the same opportunities, the same timeline, but you don't need to. The goal isn't to become that person, right? The goal is to become the best version of yourself that you can. And there's another thing that I think about a lot. Every single person on this planet gets the same basic amount of time every day. Whether it's you or whether it's Bill Gates, right? You got 24 hours. That's it. The person driving the Lamborghini gets 24 hours. The person taking the bus gets that same 24 hours. The CEO gets 24 hours. The person starting their first job gets 24 hours. And obviously, people have different responsibilities and circumstances and resources, but time is still one of the most valuable resources that we all have. And you have to decide what you're going to do with it, right? You can spend 2 hours scrolling through social media, or you can spend those same 2 hours learning a skill. You could spend your evenings, watching other people build businesses and thinking, again, oh, that would be nice to have. Or you can spend that time building on your own, right? The time's going to go by anyways. You can spend years saying, one day I think I'll do that. Or you can actually start figuring out what you need to do today. And that's where the why not me mindset becomes useful because it forces you to stop looking at someone else's life as something that's completely separate from yours and unattainable. And this applies directly to wealth, right? If you see someone who's financially successful, you can obviously admire the results, but don't just simply admire the results, right? Study the process. How did they make their money? What skills did they develop? What did they invest in? What risks did they take? Like all these details, right? Because there are two very different ways that you can react to someone else's success. You can think, oh, I'll never have that. Or you can think, interesting, how did they do that? One of those thoughts closes the door and the other one honestly opens it, right? And that's the mindset I want to have. Not jealousy, not entitlement, just kind of a curiosity, right? Why them? Why not me? But I also want to be realistic. I'm not going to tell you that if you just, believe hard enough, you'll become a millionaire because that's just not how life works, right? You can do everything right and still have things go wrong. You can't control your starting circumstances or you can't control the opportunities that you're given, right? You can't control the economy for sure, right? And you can't control luck sometimes. And there are absolutely people who face obstacles that make these goals much harder. But I think there's a difference between kind of recognizing reality and kind of limiting yourself before you've even tried. Don't tell yourself something is impossible simply because you haven't done it yet or because other people tell you that it's not possible. Maybe you won't get the exact house you saw. Maybe you won't drive the exact car you want. Maybe your version of success looks completely different than someone else's. And that's 100% okay. The point is to stop assuming that a better life is something that's just reserved for other people. And this has actually changed how I think about my own financial goals. When I see someone who's further ahead than me, I don't want my first reaction to be, "Oh, that must be nice, right? Like it's not in the cards for me." I want it to be, "Why couldn't I do something like that?" Or like, "How can I achieve this?" Right? And then I want to figure out what I'd actually have to do to get it. And maybe that means for me getting better at my career, at my 9 to 5, or maybe it means further continuing to build my side hustle or another side hustle or, investing for decades like I'm planning to do and I'm investing now or, learning something new, whatever it is, right? And I might fail. That's possible, right? Failure is not a life sentence, but I'd rather try and figure out what I'm capable of than spend my entire life assuming that certain things are only for other people and they're not for me. So the next time you see someone driving the car you want or living in the house you want or, even simply living a life that you admire, instead of being envious or jealous and instead of saying, "Oh, that must be nice," ask yourself, "Why not me?" Right? You're a human being, they're a human being. You have the same 24 hours in a day that they have, and it doesn't mean you'll have the same opportunities and it doesn't mean that success is guaranteed, but it does mean that you don't have to automatically disqualify yourself from something. Right? So dream bigger, work toward it, learn, invest, build these skills and learn to accept failure and continue to strive to be better. And most importantly, stop assuming that the things you admire in other people's lives are automatically out of reach for you because maybe they aren't, right? Why not you? So that's it for the video today, guys. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment on your thoughts on this. If you're interested in this type of content and more kind of financial content, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.